Hello, I am Shivam Banka and welcome to this new video of management case study interview. The purpose of this video is to give you an understanding of how a management case study interview goes and what is expected of you in a case study interview. For that reason, this video is divided into two parts. In the first part, I'll be going through the interview and present my understanding of it. In the second part, I will provide the overall structure of the interview. For context, all the black text with blue background you see is the statement of the interviewer, and all the blue text with a white background you see is the statement of the candidate. Today we are doing a case study interview where a client is a seat manufacturing company. Let's begin. Your client is a seat manufacturing company. They have hired you to figure how to reduce their total cost of operations. Okay. So the first line told by a interviewer in a case study interview is one of the most important lines because it tells you the scope of the interview. So what do you have here is a client is a seat manufacturing company, and they have hired you to figure out how to reduce their cost of operations. So they have directly pointed out that we don't want you to analyze the profit chart as a whole, but we know the problem is coming from cost of operations, and we want suggestions how to improve it. So this is a typical profitability interview, and a typical profitability interview is divided into three parts. In the first part, you try to understand more of the client's business, the in this case, you understand more of the client's business and what exactly do they do. In the second part, you understand or you structure the problem. So you structure the situation to figure out where exactly is the problem coming from. And in the third part, you provide recommendations and solutions. So we are in the first part where we try to understand more of the client's company. I would like to know a bit more about the company. Where is it located? Is it solely into manufacturing? Who are its customers? It is located in India and has factory down south. Its customer consists of two-wheeler auto manufacturer. It does have a sales force to maintain relations with auto companies, but is primarily a manufacturing entity. Okay. Oh, approximately what share of market does it command? It is it is actually a local plant which supplies only to automobile manufacturing factories located in the same E Z SEZ, and it's only locally available manufacturer. So our client is company which manufactures seats for two-wheeler vehicles and is located in an SEZ where their customer is also present. They want me to come up with cost-cutting mechanisms. May I ask why? With the slowdown in auto sector, they have been forced by their customer to reduce the prices at which they sell their seats. Also keep in mind that the company has been trying to cut costs on its own. Makes sense. Auto manufacturers generally have higher negotiating power over their suppliers. So the way I'm going to approach the problem is to look at each stage of the value chain and identify cost head. Once I have done that, I'll try to come up with ways in which we can cut cost for the company. Before I drill down further, can we have any specific cost reduction targets? Go ahead with your approach. Though there is no specific cost reduction target, remember that your incentives are tied to the percentage reduction in cost you affect. Okay. I have that is usually how a managed consulting firm operates, that their income is tied to how much cost they save as a percentage of that. So they usually cutting jobs is one of the highest. There's as a, it's a joke around that cutting costs is they're usually the approach. But okay, okay. So where were we? Okay, go ahead with your approach. There is no specific cost reduction target. Remember that your incentives are tied to the percentage of cost you affect. Okay, I have broadly broken the cost heads down into raw material cost, production cost, and R&D cost, storage cost, distribution cost, and sales cost. Production cost would have variable cost of processing and fixed cost of factory overheads. Um, Sales would also include the same. Do you want me to focus on any specific cost head? So this is a very generic value chain where you can apply when you can apply this in any manufacturing industry. So you start with raw material, production and R&D. storage, distribution, and sales. So this is a value chain you can just copy paste in any different manufacturing industry you're analyzing. Uh, what do you think you should focus on? Okay. I would like I would like to look for avenues for cost reduction which comprise of a majority of my cost. For something I like a seat for a two-wheeler, the customer probably send the design specification to our client. Um, in addition, the client is a local player. Both of the above reasons give me confidence that the R&D costs are a smaller percentage or are non-existent. Outbound logistic and are likely to be small percentage of the total cost since our clients local. Sales are probably sales also probably contribute to the low percentage of the cost as he is the sole manufacturer and sales people mostly act as liaisons. Most of the cost is likely be concentrated in the raw materials and production cost. At at this point, I would like to clarify about the production process. How exactly does it work? Good. You were right in identifying the RM cost is the highest. The seat is made up of three components: the plastic frame, the foam, and the rubber covering. The plastic frame is manufactured in house. The raw material that is plastic goes through an injection molding process to make the plastic frame. Uh, the foam is cut and set on top, and the seat is covered with rubber and stitched. The supply of raw materials are also in the same city, hence you can neglect inbound logistic cost as well. Got it. I would first like to focus on raw material cost. The total cost of raw material can be written as uh, okay. So you put an equation of whatever is the raw material equation. Hence, we can either reduce price, reduce wastage, or the designed quantity of raw materials for a seat. For reduction in price, we can negotiate with our suppliers to reduce prices. Okay. Um, do you feel the company would have already tried negotiating raw material prices? Keep in mind that you need to come up with something the client hasn't thought of yet. Okay. Presently, one of the ways in which one can reduce the prices is by using cheaper but low quality raw material. However, I would not recommend that since it may cause a significant loss to customer experience for a marginal benefit in cost. For reducing the amount of material and wastage, we can work with our customer to implement some design changes which will result in cost savings. For plastic frames, we can reduce the thickness of the seat. The injection molding there is certain amount there is certain amount of wastage associated with each plastic frame in form of support structure. If the design of the mold includes manufacturing of multiple frames at the same time, you can reduce the wastage per seat. Generally, two-wheeler seats are stylized to create ergonomic seating, which might result in wastage during the process. Instead, we can design foam elements in such a way that there is straight cut so as to optimize the material. Finally, instead of stitching the rubber material into foam, we can marginally save on the seam material by using an adhesive to stick the rubber covering the foam. Good. Some of the above measures were not implemented by the client yet and will be useful for them. Do you have any long-term measures? To constantly keep the cost of the workforce in the factory may be motivated to achieve high productivity and low cost. Also, factories traditionally have a bureaucratic structure with significant marginal overhead cost. However, the company I interned for had managed to have very low managerial overhead in its factory due to its HR policies. Okay. Okay. So just to give you some a bit of a context, so we have starting we understood the company, and in the second part where we divided the whole value chain, we were structuring the situation to figure out the problem where it's coming from, and 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 now The candidate has already given suggestions and recommendations to improve, and now they have given short-term recommendation solution, and now the interviewer asking for a long-term recommendation. We have already identified that the firm's objective is to reduce cost. In designing the HR policy, I would look at each of the subsystem in place and figure out how to modify the policies such that it will result in an increase in productivity. The subsystems would include recruitment, training, compensation, incentive, performance appraisals, promotions, and retentions. In each subsystem, we can check for whether they are geared towards the objective and modify them in case they are not. Example, we can have a suggestion scheme with the monetary reward in case the suggestions results in significant saving. Should I go ahead to analyze the system? No, that's okay. Let's wrap the case here. You did well. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. So it was a pretty good case. The candidate was staying on track. It's not, he was not diverting here and there. And then he figured out the problem, provided suggestions. The interviewer told the suggestions might be already implemented. So he went ahead and deep and provided very deep, in-depth suggestions to reduce cost, and also provided long-term uh, solutions for it. So let's move to the second part where we'll analyze the interview as a whole. So in a case study interview, it's very important to maintain very clear and crisp notes, because at the end of the interview, the interviewer will ask for your notes, and he should be able to understand everything in one go. Interview notes: identify the biggest bucket and prioritize them. Client is trying to reduce cost on their own, need to come up with innovative solutions. Client is only local manufacturer and has a competitive advantage. Auto manufacturers have significant negotiating power, and the client's company may not inquire about the production process and from end to end. Some of the case facts were: seat manufacturers for automobile located in South India, SEZ primarily a manufacturing entity. Customers are two-wheeler auto manufacturer, reduce prices due to slow down in auto sector. An objective is to reduce cost as much as possible. So, and this is the most important part where you have provided the whole flow chart, which the interview see how well you think in a structured manner. So the costs were divided into the entire value chain from raw material to manufacture and R&D, storage and distribution, sales. And then we went ahead in raw materials. And then we had three forms of raw material, which is the plastic, foam, and rubber. And then we figured out how to reduce the cost of raw material, the amount of RM per seat used, and how do you reduce the wastage and so reduce the cost in short term. So the recommendations provided by the candidate were: the client should take the following short-term measures for each of this material. For plastic frame, reduce wastage by changing to multi-mold setup, reduce amount by reducing thickness. For foam, reduce wastage by implementing straight cuts. For rubber covering, stick instead of stitch to reduce wastage. In the long term, the client should implement changes in its HR policies to continue with a long-term low cost strategy. So some of the observations for the interview are: the interviewee should quickly identify and clarify the cost heads of the company and then be able to prioritize them. The interview does not identify some key elements of the strategy of the client, that is low cost, low negotiating power. It would have been a good idea to stage them upfront. Yeah, so when the interviewer mentioned that the company has already tried to implement some strategy, you could have asked what the company has already did so that you don't overlap your suggestions with them. Key takeaways from this case is: be innovative in a solution, but also be structured. 80/20 rule was used particularly well with each of the cost head uh, when each of the cost heads was evaluated value chain to evaluate costs. So that is also a good thing. So it was a pretty good case study interview. I hope you guys learned a lot. Um, Also, the idea of watching these videos is you get an understanding of different industries, because the underlying principle of if you think from first principles, you can solve any case, but having knowledge of certain industries is very beneficial and to gain confidence to go for any case study interview. So do subscribe to the channel and do watch this video every day, because I'll be uploading one video every day. And thank you for watching and hope you have a nice day.